You may have seen or heard of people who say they're able to communicate with spirits or people have died. And some psychics seem to be able to receive answers to questions and helpful information even about the future. They seem to be tuning into something that nobody else can see or hear. And I'm going to explain how you can learn to attune to inner guidance yourself. A major part of your spiritual path is to listen to inner guidance. And that comes from your higher self or divine source. And sometimes this inner guidance is referred to as a still small voice. And that's an indication that what you're wanting to tune into is very subtle. And that is why most people are not even aware of it. The nature of attuning to the subtleties of the inner voice requires practice to discern the voice that you want to hear from all the other voices in the chatter that go on in your mind. And the biggest obstacle is hearing extraneous messages or more than one voice. And that can create confusion and cause you to give up on the whole process, and thereby you end up disappointed. The clearest messages come out in a stillness rather than through any analytical thought. So it's important to learn to quiet your mind as much as possible first. And here's a simple way to help you get started. You can just follow along now and apply this method after I explain how to do it. Close your eyes and put the palm of one of your hands over the upper center of your chest. This is referred to as your heart center or your soul center. And doing this brings your attention to your spiritual center, and it helps you to tune into your higher self. Then take several slow, deep breaths and relax your mind. And there's nothing else that you need to do or think about while you're tuning in, so it's safe to let other thoughts go for a little while. And this part of the process might take several minutes, but it's quite important to let go of anything that your mind has been occupied with through the day, or you're going to find that those thoughts are contaminating the guidance that you're looking for. If you need additional help with this, be sure to read my article on 5 proven ways to quiet your mind in my blog on my website, jonathanparker.org. And that article gives you suggestions on how to diminish and eliminate mind chatter. The secret to receiving a still small voice lies in carefully wording your questions. And once you've settled into that meditative state, then you ask a question. You might find it helpful to ask questions that can be answered yes or no at first. And after doing this for a week or two, then you can move on to more simple questions, such as choices of what to do on any particular situation, such as what to eat or what to purchase or where to go. At the beginning of your day, resolve you're going to trust that guidance for the decisions and choices that will make your day. And you undoubtedly have multiple decisions that you must make every day, so you can utilize your intuition to guide you through these process. So such questions like, what should I wear today? Or what should I have for lunch? What would be the best foods for me to have today? Should I have a sandwich or soup? Which phone call should I make first? What type of car should I buy? Does this serve my highest purpose? Should I go to bed at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock tonight? Make the choices you feel prompted to make. And if you're unclear on your guidance, keep asking questions, and that will give you deeper insights into the choices that you make. The more clear and specific your questions, the more clear and specific will be your answers. And I know that sounds simple enough, but this is where a lot of practice over weeks is very important, to wait for the answers to arise out of the quietness rather than paying attention to the cascade of rambling or conflicting thoughts. And if you receive more than one response, then ask which one can you trust. The more you practice with lesser items of importance, the greater will be your trust and confidence when you're faced with more important choices and decisions. And once you're practiced and comfortable with receiving and trusting guidance on these lesser important issues, then you're able to find you'll have insights and direction on much more important issues. And you'll also become more sensitive to the inner promptings of your higher guidance. And your life will then begin to flow with much greater ease. Now, don't underestimate the importance of staying with practicing these simple questions, probably for several weeks. If you immediately jump into asking more complex questions without successfully mastering discerning answers to the simple questions, you're probably going to end up frustrated, and you'll probably quit. I've been teaching this subject to many people for over 40 years, and I know what works, and I also know what doesn't. So be aware that this is a skill, It's like learning a new language or a musical instrument, and you must practice to become good at it. Some experts say it takes 10,000 hours or more to excel in a field. And while it probably won't take you that long, it is important that you be patient with the process, and you will be richly rewarded for it. Now, when you've practiced getting good at inner guidance on simple questions for several weeks, then you can move to questions whose answers will give you more information. For instance, you may desire to be shown the next most important undertaking that will take you to the next breakthrough or to the next level of spiritual growth. And you may have many questions about business or about relationships. An effective technique to make this process easier is to ask your questions if you're sitting across from an all-wise being who has all the answers. Like if you were talking to a friend, you would calmly ask a question and then you'd be quiet and wait for the answer. Listen, observe, and be open with the intention of receiving a response. This is inner listening, and of its practice, it'll open your receptivity to your spiritual insights. If there's a question you're wanting clarity on and more information, make all of the other preparations for meditation. Be in a place where you won't be disturbed and you can relax, quiet your mind, continue breathing in a calm, connected, relaxed manner. Be in a place of openness and willingness to receive. Hold no judgments on anything you receive, on yourself or anyone else. And if you don't receive a great deal of information in this particular session, ask your question and patiently wait effortlessly and attentive and be relaxed. Be expectant, but don't have expectations. Your answers may come in what are called flash insights, or in the form of feelings, or maybe a rising of a new awareness. And it's very important not to react to what you're receiving, nor to invalidate yourself by questioning or doubting yourself regarding the information that you receive, because that will only squelch your ability to receive clear messages. And in time, this will be a lot easier for you to do it at any time and anywhere. But in the beginning, it's important to follow these procedures to be successful. Now, you might find yourself thinking that what you're receiving is merely your normal inner dialogue. And it's important to know that there are several possible sources of responses. First, your own rational, analytical mind is likely to make its contributions. There'll be a commentary. And you'll notice that the nature of these responses is more like thinking and processing the subject matter, rather than merely listening for the response to arrive out of a deep stillness. For instance, if your inner inquiry concerns whether to accept an invitation from some acquaintance or not, you may find this aspect of your mind saying something like, well, there you go again. Do you think we should go out tonight or not? Well, if we don't, what will our friends think of us? But if we do, you're going to regret it tomorrow. On the other hand, we do enjoy being with these people. But then again, maybe that isn't the best way to spend our time tonight or our money. Now, if we could go, it would be a mistake. So the analytical mind is often going to get lost in these loops of thought. It'll process, it'll have judgments just like that. A second source of responses is from your own history. Stored within you are memories of things that you've heard, seen, experienced, and these might rise in response to your request for information. The voices of memories may be the voices you've stored from your parents, or maybe some others that you grew up with, teachers, authority figures, or even the casual and unthinking offhand critical comments made to you by friends or others. And these type of voices go something like this. This time of questioning can only go into dangerous water. You need to save your pennies for a rainy day. You clearly know right from wrong. Why would you want to get so close to the edge? It would be better for you to just forget about all of this and stay with what you've been taught. If it was good enough for mom and dad, it's good enough for you. Just work hard. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So there can be strong voices like that appear to be voices of your conscience, but they're actually the voices of your parents or other people, and they may not even be relevant to the situation that you find yourself in. The third source of response is stored emotions. Emotions have a feeling charge that can bring a voice in your mind. For instance, a voice might say, I've really had it with the way that person keeps treating me. They have no right to do this. How dare they mess with me? I should sue them. The inner voices of anger can be very destructive and only set in motion energies that create what is strongly resisted. What you resist persists. So related to this are the voices of what is called the shadow self. These are the parts of you that tend to not want to look at, so you keep them in the shadow, below your level of conscious awareness. A fourth source of voices and thoughts is the darkest, potentially most destructive of all voices. It may be composed of all the previous elements of analysis, memories, and emotions, but they're bent in the most negative and destructive ways. You might hear an inner voice saying, "I'll kill that person for not doing what I want. How dare they do that to me? They should be made to suffer. I feel so miserable." And some of these voices come from a fifth area of what is sometimes called the collective unconscious, which houses all the passions, drives, archetypes, beliefs, and the overriding attitudes of the mass consciousness. And that includes all the hatred and prejudice of large groups of people. But it also houses the needs, the loves, and desires of groups. So it's a real mixture of all kinds of drives that have an overall effect on virtually everyone. Depending on how your consciousness is oriented will determine how you tune into these energies. And some people are affected very little by these energies. Others are greatly influenced and affected by them. The sixth source of inner voices are formed in the sub-identities or sub-personalities, which actually form most of the inner voices you hear throughout the day. The voices utilize many techniques. They're all designed to keep you safe. For example, if you're inquiring about your relationships, or maybe a lack thereof, you might hear voices saying something like, "I want to be loved, but relationships are risky, and they can bring pain. So I'll just let people get so far with me, and I'll feel safer if I can keep people at arm's length." So these voices indicate some relationship fears, and this represents the areas where the person with these voices will find the greatest chance of being confronted and challenged, as well as the greatest possibilities for growth. If the person deals with these voices, their relationship experiences will deepen and become rich. But if the source of the voices are not cleared, they can represent the greatest potential area for relationship failings. There's also another voice, the voice in the heart. The voice of the heart and soul or divine source will usually come in through the heart center. And although there can also be voices of grief, betrayal, and pain in the heart, you'll know if the voice you hear is from a spiritual source if it is positive, kind, loving, and healing. Anything else is from an ego identity. The voices I'm speaking of may not actually come in the form of a voice as you know it. You're not likely to hear these voices like a person talking to you out loud, because it's an inner hearing. But sometimes it'll come as a knowing or a realization, or maybe even an image or an experience or a sound or a sensation. The voice of the soul or divine source will resound with the qualities of trust and love and bring deep comfort and positivity. Multiple voices exist in just about everyone, and there's an interplay within them at all times until you learn how to separate out the higher self and the divine voice and choose that over all of the other voices that you're under constant pressure to move in the direction of those voices. This is a very important piece of knowledge, and here's how you deal with that. It's helpful to label the voices as they arise. For instance, a voice of doubt, criticism, or blame. The voices of inner needs and desires, the voices of pain and struggle, the voices of your soul and spiritual guides. Honor the voices of the feelings and awareness that reveal themselves to you. And when those voices of doubt and distraction want to take you away from the beauty and love, return your focus to your heart center and repeat the words that deeply connect you with your spiritual nature and truth. This is one of the most effective ways of dealing with mental distractions. For instance, you can say to yourself, "I feel love and light in my heart." And in time, you'll find yourself receiving moment-to-moment inner guidance and revelations that are going to be helpful to you and others. Developing a relationship with your inner guidance will lead you to beneficial decisions and actions. And this will lead to the life that you want unfolding all around you, that's inspirational and filled with a deep level of love and trust. Sometimes, if not often, the ideas and guidance that you come to do not make conscious sense, That's because your conscious mind doesn't have access to the large view of your higher self and soul, and information which is out of your range of the five senses, and it can only be accessed by higher aspects of your consciousness. So you may not always understand the guidance or the insights that you're receiving. But in time, you will come to trust that process, and your ability to interpret what you receive will become much more sure. As you receive guidance and you practice trusting that your guidance will bring the accuracy and the choices that you want, you'll find that your ability to perceive will deepen and it will increase, and that's the beginning of living a miraculous light. I'll remind you, this is a process that's a skill that requires patience and dedication to master, and you might think it's easier just to continue on with your day-to-day life as you always have. However, you'd be missing out on much of what life can be if you don't make that choice. Remembering, practice inner listening takes resolve, but it also pays rich rewards, and the inconveniences necessary to achieve mastery are worth all the investment, and your guidance will lead you to what makes you happy and fulfilled. And that's because you'll be in touch with your core essence, which is always in a state of perfect contentment. It's joyful, it's unconditional love. And that's where this will take you.